Alright, so I got the first mock-up of the template for the molle panel that I'm going to fabricate. Now I want to stress very strongly to you guys that this is not by any means a finished product or even a close product, but I wanted to show you guys that creating a template like this and a quick mock-up of what your vision is gives a visual, you know, on your project of what you're working toward, pretty much. So I just use, this is a paper bag from Walmart. They're like those big bags you can get to put long clippings and leaves and stuff in and cut it up. And this is just random cardboard that I ran along the roof rack with to create like makeshift brackets and stuff that will eventually mount. This is going to be the molle panel. And then this is just saying, you know, no metal, because my window is right back behind here, so I don't want any metal like hitting back there, you know. So we want to make sure that this is recessed, or well, not recessed, but pushed forward, you know, so it doesn't ever hit the window. And then we got like little mocked up body lines, so I can kind of play around with what size I want. Put in the gas tank, obviously, just so that on this template I know where that's at, so I don't build a molle panel that comes down and I can't open my gas tank. But like I said, there's no measurements right now, and clearly it is not a finished product. But my whole point to making it was it puts a visual, you know. So I'm going to use that as a template and get some measurements. And thankfully both sides, this side and the reverse side of it, is just mirrored each other. And again, this is going to be subject to change a lot. Like this is just a basic idea that's going to evolve as I work on it and come up with different ideas. So yeah, I'm excited to see what it comes up with, because like I said, I could go out and buy one easy if I saved up for it, but I don't have the money for that right now. But I do want one, so I got some scrap metal, some fabrication skills, and we're gonna see what comes out of it. So what we got here is two pretty good size sheets of 16 gauge steel. And I wanted to build the molle panels out of 1/8 inch steel, but I don't have 1/8 inch steel, and I don't have the money to go buy 1/8 inch steel in the poundage right now, because I think right now there's a place that has like big sheets of 1/8 inch metal, but it's like 60 some cents a pound, but it's like at least 100 some pounds. So that's not gonna exactly work right now. But what I do have is two pretty good sized sheets of 16 gauge. Now, what's awesome about 16 gauge steel is the thickness of it is approximately a 1/16 of an inch. So if I cut out my molle panel, if I cut it out and take this, flip it over and cut it out again, I can take those two pieces and bolt them together, and I all of a sudden have an 1/8 inch molle panel, because 2/16 inches is 1/8 inch. The beauty of our standard system, right? So I think that's where I'm going with it. I'm really excited. I got to get the hardware, but we have just barely enough, because this is the size of my window, and I want to try to make the molle panel bigger, just a little bit, not the exact size, but I'd like to add on some length, you know, just a little bit in everywhere, so that I have a little bit more mounting room. So yeah, it looks like we have literally, that would be one side, cut it out over here, and then put those two together to make one side of the 4Runner. Then I can do the same with that sheet, and obviously clean it up and all that good stuff. And then I'm gonna probably drill a hole and take a bolt, put the bolt through, and have a lock washer and a lock nut on the other side, and then I can take and weld the head of the bolt and the nut on the back side so that they never undo. And I think that's more or less going to be my molle panel for right now. I'm gonna still playing around with some ideas, but that seems like the quickest, most straightforward way to do it. So let's see how it goes. I got the first molle panel cut out. Everything went really great. Tried the air tools, and I could get like 45 seconds out of the air we had in the compressor. So switched to electric, cut through it really nice. So after I got this 16 gauge cut out and kind of held up to the 4Runner over there, kind of started thinking that this isn't going to be too bad on its own. If I take it and brace it right, we can keep it clean looking, but keep the weight reduction on it so it's not super heavy. So I don't know, I'm gonna cut the second one out, playing around with the idea of just keeping it 16 gauge to mount everything to, because if, you know, when I go to weld up the braces and the brackets to mount it to the roof rack, if everything's done right, you know, a jerry can, recovery pads, a shovel, and axe, like the 16 gauge is more than capable of holding it, and it's still lightweight. So if I can brace it right, I'm thinking we can just run one instead of cutting out a second one and pairing them together. We can just keep it one. So as far as cutting the 16 gauge goes, I had a whiz wheel that's air compressed with some cutoff wheels, but like I said, went away from that to use electric. So the only thing I'm using is this 4.5 inch Hitachi angle grinder. Works amazing. And then just went to the local Harbor Freight and got Hercules 4.5 inch cutoff wheels. It's good for steel and I think stainless steel. Not that we're doing stainless steel, but it's Harbor Freight, so it was cheap, and I was like, well, we'll see if it works. And it does. So far it's eaten through this metal really nice. So you don't need super high-end tools to chase your dreams and do what you're doing. Just work with what you have and make do. Plans have changed yet again. So I got the molle panels cut out of the 16 gauge steel. However, looking at it and doubling them up, it's really not going to do a whole lot. The 1/8 inch is a lot thicker, but depending on how we mount it to the 4Runner, the 16 gauge is going to have enough rigidity to hold what we need it to hold as long as we mount it. So it saved a lot of sheet metal as well. The bracket idea to the roof rack has changed as well, because I had the mock-up with the cardboard and stuff, but went to Tractor Supply and found these brackets, and then we got some bolts, washers, and nuts that I think is going to work really well. Pretty much we're going to have this mounted to the roof rack, And then this is going to be, well, it's going to look kind of like this. Kind of like that coming off of the roof rack. And that's right now kind of what I'm thinking I'm going to go with. So I'm going to mount it up to the roof rack and kind of see what evolves from there. So we have it mounted. Here you can see we got the prototype for the molle rack. These are just brackets I got at Tractor Supply. Some 1/4 inch by 1.5 inch bolts with washers and lock nuts on the other side. And this is the 16 gauge steel I cut out. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it, but on this side you have 2 braces coming across, the washer and the lock nuts to kind of brace it all together. Hopefully you could see that. And yeah, so the next part is gonna get some brackets to come off here, come down here, and we're gonna bolt the molle panel up to the 4Runner. So part 1 is done for the day. Got work in the morning. Every day after work I'm trying to work a little bit on it. So we'll see what tomorrow holds. So it is a new day. We haven't been out on the project the last couple, well, yesterday actually, because it was raining pretty bad, but today we're back in the garage. We got our L brackets. I got them sanded down with the flapper disc and ready to weld. Pretty much what we're going to be doing, if I can set this up like this, is this is going to be flat, but I'm going to put a weld right here, then on this back side, and weld these together, and it's going to look a lot better than that, obviously. And that's going to be the mount. This will mount to the roof rack, then the molle panel is going to mount to that right there. We got our welding cart all set up. Just got little Lincoln 140 little home welder, nothing too crazy, but does the job perfectly. Got our setup with the gas and everything. So I'm going to lay some beads on this. It'll add structure, rigidity, and then it takes, instead of just bolting them, it takes 2 pieces, makes it one solid. So I mean, it just less vibration, less bouncing around, less chance for stuff. So yeah. We got 3/16 metal. Just for the record, I didn't say this in the last part, but it is 3/16. So the cool thing is with this Lincoln 140, I can't set up the voltage and the amperage and wire speed the way I'm used to doing. It's all quick select, which is really cool because on this chart, if you look, you just go to 3/16. We're running 0.25 wire, so 7D. So then you come here and you set it to 7, set it to D, and it should be good to go. Like I said, it's just kind of like a quick select, which is pretty cool. I'm used to having to pick the wire speed and voltage itself, but this actually makes it really nice and easy. So we'll see how these welds come out. Got it bracketed to the table, clamped to the table. So right here is where I'm going to be laying the weld, and then gonna lay one on the underside right here, and then I'm gonna do a little weld right along the sides and grind it down flush so it's not like you don't have the big weld showing, but that just adds security. And then this right here, where you can see this bracket underneath, I'm just gonna plug weld this up to add added security, and this is gonna become one single piece. And that one single piece we're gonna remount back up, and it's gonna come down, out, and down, and then our molle panel is gonna go up against that. All right, got everything welded together and kind of mocked up to kind of show you guys what the plan is. So we got our 2 brackets that are one piece now, and here's kind of what's going on. We got this C-channel that I got, and I made a cut right here. So I cut here, here, and then folded one of these bends back for the front of the bracket. And on the back side of it, if you can see, it's going to be sitting on the rail, this rail of the bottom part of the C-channel, and I can throw a bead here, a bead on the back side, and then if we wanted, we could throw a bead here. And this is really rigid and strong, especially with these bends in here. And by folding this back, it sits flush, and then we have the support of the C-channel. And then the molle panel is gonna bolt up to this, and this is what's gonna run to the roof rack. So yeah, that's where we're at so far. I'm gonna go ahead and finish this part up, and we'll see you guys in a second. It would help if the first time we did this, we had the settings for the right thickness of metal. This is 3/16. This is roughly 10-11 gauge, right there. So yeah, the first welds didn't come out the greatest, and I was very frustrated with them. But then it dawned on me that this C-channel is a different thickness, so I had to adjust the welder. So rookie mistake, that can happen to anyone, but here in make-do overland, we're making do. Yeah, that wire speed was way too high on the other setting. It's not popping on me and pushing the gun back, which you should have realized right away, but my brain was a lot of different places and I didn't notice.
much better.
Yeah, those beads came out way better. Yeah, folks at home, it helps when you have the right little settings.
It happens.
Hey, we're making do though. That's a thing, you know. It's the adventure of it. It's the fun of it, you know. So that ran so much smoother. Oh my goodness.
That's funny.
The molle panel brackets are up and in, and here is the final result. It's not done. We're still gonna obviously prep the metal, rhino line it and stuff. But here's pretty much the concept on the roof rack. And this railing right here, the C channel, is where we're gonna drill. And we're gonna bolt the molle panel to that for it to come down. But it is, what, 5:28? And it is getting late and I'm getting hungry. So we're gonna pause here. But there's that side. And here's this side. And that's pretty much the simple concept of it. And then you have the C channel. And then, don't mind the shitty ass welds on this one. This is the one with the bad settings. But, live and let learn. You'd think I'd have remembered to adjust for thickness, but psh, it was a day. But yeah, check this out though. We got this up, and then, like I said, just gonna put the molle panel up to it, and we'll be golden. And here we have the molle panel pretty much fitted up and on. Here is the 16 gauge plate, and then we have here just some, get it to focus, there we go. Some bolts and washers and lock nuts, and a rubber stopper from Home Depot back here to keep it off of the window. And then up here you can see, have it mounted to the C channel that runs back here. And then there's the bracket you guys have already seen before on how it mounts to the roof rack. So it's actually really sturdy. We're gonna go ahead and clean the metal up, hit it with some Raptor liner from AutoZone, keep it protected, and yeah. All right, my friends, and it is done and done. Got the molle panel mounted. I got the recovery boards mounted to the molle panel. And I'll just walk you through really quick exactly what I did. Up top, this is just a Cabela's roof rack. Nothing crazy, really. It was on the Subaru, which ended up on the Jeep, which ended up on the 4Runner. I've just kept using it. So to make this work, since I don't have a Prinsu, this is right here is 16 gauge that is folded over to wrap around the roof rack right here. And on the back side, if you can see, there are two braces. They're not pretty, but they work. That these bolts right here, they're 7/16 by 1.5 inch. Those actually might be just 1 inch, but they're 7/16 bolts that go through that 9/16 panel all the way, and then you can kind of see them poking out right here, and they screw in or bolt into that. There's a lock washer and a lock nut on the back side to make sure it's nice and tight. This right here is an L bracket for a gate, and this is a second L bracket for a gate, and I welded it right here. I did just a lap joint weld right here and just a butt joint, pretty much ground it flush, make it look nice. And that's pretty much welded together. We have it on both sides, and then it comes down to this, which if I walk on this side, I haven't mounted anything yet, but you can see this right here is just 16 gauge sheet metal I cut out into the shape of the window. And on the back side of this, you can see I have some C channel running, which I need to throw some rhino line on. But I I just put cuts in the C channel right here and folded this bend up in that section, and then stuck the bracket in there, welded the bracket to the C channel, and bolted the 16 gauge actual molle panel to the bracket. These are just washers and lock nuts running down the molle panel through to the C channel, 7/16, and either 1 inch or 1.5 inch bolts, and then down here as well to keep it from smacking against the window. These are just little rubber bump stops, pretty much from Home Depot, that I drilled a hole in to feed the bolt through. So the bolt head is on this left side and it sticks out with the lock washer on the right. And it was bouncing just a little bit with a little bit of vibration, so I found some thick weather stripping to stick to the car temporarily right now to mitigate the vibration and keep it a little bit tighter. And that's pretty much it. I got some up here too, where the bracket sits on the stock roof rack. And that's pretty much it. Again, I just want to disclose and say this is not professional. This isn't supposed to be engineering, phenomenon. I just didn't have the money for a Prinsu rack or a full rack that runs along the side, and B, for molle panels, but I didn't want to not have them, so I fabricated them up the best that I knew. This is version 1.1. Obviously, it's pretty much a prototype for what I was doing, and there's always going to be adjustments and ideas that come to light that I can do to make it better. But for right now, I just got back from a camping trip in Hocking Hills State Park here in Ohio, Logan, Ohio, and it did great, did good out there. I've been driving down freeways, down back roads, and no vibration. It's not loud. The recovery board's mounted flawlessly to it and isn't shaking around. And again, this is just a little DIY home project because I wanted molle panels, so I said, well, heck, let's make them. So I hope it inspires you guys. I hope you got some ideas from it. Again, let me know if you have a better idea. You can take this and run with it and maybe make it better. I'll definitely make it better, because like I said, this was just what I had at the time and made it work. And then the coating is actually just Raptor. It's called Raptor Liner from AutoZone, and it's an underbody / bed coating, and that's just to keep it from rusting. So thank you guys so much for joining me on this adventure making these molle panels. There's going to be more DIYs to come. I got to do a Viper cut on the front bumper up there. I'm going to paint the rims because I can't afford methods, because this is make do. And I'm going to weld up a tire carrier to come out of that. And in the back you can see a little styrofoam, a big styrofoam casing. I'm going to make a little shelter for some stray cats I found. So that's gonna be a wild side project for just cause. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate the support. You can follow me on Instagram, and I will see you guys in the next adventure.